Committee meeting, October meeting to order. You need to make announcements on the Zoom.
Yes, so this is our first hybrid meeting. Let's see, in-person rules, the City of Monterey is committed to the safe attendance of its public meetings. Masks are required for all who attend in person, regardless of vaccination status, except those who are younger than 2 years old or have a medical condition that prevents wearing a mask. We ask that attendees in the council chambers keep their phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference and feedback with the hybrid meeting. Zoom procedures. The City of Monterey seeks to continue to offer virtual methods for public participation in meetings. If you aren't joining us in person here in council chambers, there are 2 ways to virtually participate in this meeting. You may join the meeting directly on Zoom.gov using the Zoom app on your computer or mobile device, and you can also call into the Zoom meeting. To join the meeting on Zoom on your computer, smartphone, or telephone, use the link or phone number on the agenda at isearch.monterey. To call into the Zoom meeting, dial toll-free 833-568-8864, then enter meeting ID 161-328-1592, and if prompted to enter participant ID, press pound. Detailed instructions on using Zoom are available at monterey.org/public meetings. To make a public comment using the Zoom app, you can virtually raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. If you dialed in by phone, raise your hand by dialing *9 and then unmute yourself when called upon by dialing *6. You must do both. Public commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak. I will call on each public speaker in the order of their hands raised. Please stay within the time limit that will be established for today's meeting, which we will show using a countdown timer on the screen. If you are connected live on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. Today's meeting is also streamed live on the city's YouTube account, which is accessible at youtube.com/City of Monterey with an approximate 10-second delay, and on Comcast channel 25 with up to a 90-second delay. As always, we look forward to receiving public comment.
Thank you. So we'll call to order and start with public comment, and this allowing a maximum of 3 minutes on any subject which is within the jurisdiction of the Measure P and S Oversight Committee, but which is not on the agenda. Is there any public comment at this time?
No public comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to any board member comments. Rick, Nick?
No.
Okay, perfect. Could we move on to the approval of the July 12th minutes?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? We get a roll call vote, please.
Rick Aldiger,
Yes.
Justin Chang,
Yes.
Carol Trebajian,
Yes.
Nick Sina,
Yes. Yes. Or Rick is yes.
okay, and Rick Hoyer, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Approval. And then may we please move on to review of the unaudited expenditures from July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021 for conformance to Measure P and S language. Anybody?
Rafaela King is our brand new finance director. She's been here for about a cup of coffee, maybe less than a month. She's brand new, and this is her first foray into the Measure P, Measure S oversight meeting. So she will take it away shortly, I believe. Rafaela?
Okay, so I wasn't planning on doing this today. I was gonna tiptoe my way into this, but okay.
Yeah, we don't.
I believe Jordan is online too, so Jordan, I'm gonna need you to jump in occasionally if you see me drowning. So the attached Measure P and Measure S activities are there for you to review. I believe that you had an opportunity to review everything except for the actual expenditures, the detailed expenditures, which hopefully you have in front of you now. So for the Measure P and over and S, we have a total revenue, including interest, that was 58.6 million. Total expenditures was 52.8 million. The fund balance is 5.7 million. For the current 2021 period from July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021, the revenue was 5.7. The total expenditures 8.5 million, and the change to fund balance is 0.2 million. The projects for the 2021 year, they continue to be conducted spending to the fund balance. Are there any specific questions that you would like to ask about the expenditures and revenues for Measure PNS?
Any questions? Where,
I'm still trying to get both of those attachments open so I can even review them. So
You're on mute.
I'm still working on getting both of those sets of the details open so I can even look at them. So bear with me for a little.
No problem.
Ms. King, welcome. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
In your opinion, do the expenditures conform to Measure PNS?
In my opinion, they do.
Thank you.
Hi, Rick Aldinger. They look fine to me. It's the usual format. All of that looks good to me. I do see that the fiscal year 2021 final is significantly below the peak in 18-19, and I'm just wondering if there's a projection. Do we expect the current fiscal year do we have a projection for that as far as total revenue at the end of this fiscal year?
Right now, I don't have any projections just yet. We will be meeting with HDL within the next 2 weeks to kind of get updated on what the revenues are going to be looking like. We can kind of see that there's a change, a turn of sales tax and things coming back. But in order for me to actually just speak freely, I would really like to just speak with HDL to kind of get a handle on exactly what they're projecting.
I think some of it, and I guess we need to take a look at that from the city standpoint, what the sales tax is looking like from, say, the conference center and the hotels, because until and or unless group business comes back to increase the sales tax expenditure in the conference center and the hotels, I think we're going to be shorter.
Okay, would you like that update the next quarterly, or would you like that update maybe sent to you prior to?
Whenever, if we can just see, I'd like to see what's, since the beginning of the fiscal year, and I think I know kind of happily or sadly what's been going on as far as groups, but to see where, because that will significantly affect it if we do not have that business coming back to provide that sales tax revenue.
So, we will get this information to you as soon as we get it.
Thank you. Rick Hoyer, have you been able to see anything of any of that?
Yeah, I mean, on the overall summary, yes, I've got a question on the detail.
Right.
Time to do that right now, or?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, I noticed, it's a tiny amount, but what is Vital Check Network? It's the first time I've seen it on our sheets.
Basically, it's for the notice of exemption. It's what we have to do for making sure that the contractor is, it's a procedure that came about with the county to do notice of completions and notice of exemptions. It's a new procedure. Yes, it's a new charge you've seen on there. It's basically a administrative charge that gets put onto our contract management.
Okay. And then I'm assuming someone's reviewed what the operating supplies are that were bought from Home Depot, and they really were only used for Measure P&S project.
And only for sidewalks.
Yeah, typically the Home Depot stuff for office supply, it may have been coded for the wrong thing for office. I've been double checking that, but it's just, it's services like you see some Fastenal paint, you see some other things that are getting from Home Depot. We can verify what that actually was. Generally office supply, it's probably miscoded.
Okay.
It was Mexican rock for the front of my house where you cut down the tree.
Mexican pebbles.
You know, that was the only questions I had on that one.
Anyone else? And I say again, I think it's been said before, but on sidewalks, it's lovely and incredibly readable. And I'm old. I don't know if I'm older than everybody else, but if the point size could be a little bit bigger, it would be lovely. When I can put it on, actually, when I can put it on my screen, then it's fine. I can blow it up. But to look at it like this is a little bit. So if it's possible, just because the sidewalks are wonderful. And the others are a little harder to read. Right. Any other questions? Comments? Do we have any public comment?
No public comments.
Okay. Could we have a motion, please, to accept the unaudited expenditures from July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021 for conformance to Measure P&S language?
I'll move that, find that they conform with Measure P&S language, only exception potentially being the Home Depot line item.
Do we have a second?
Second, Rick Aldinger.
Any discussion? We have a roll call vote, please.
Rick Aldinger,
Yes.
Justin Chang,
Yes.
Carol Tribajian,
Yes.
Nick Sina,
Yes.
Rick Hoyer,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously with those present. Then next, if we could, please move on to the unaudited periodic report of July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021, which we have here. Any discussion, questions?
The only question, okay.
Go ahead.
No, I don't, not on that. There was an interesting expenditure on that one. Who is Dominique Dinner? Says it's easement deed fee, but
So basically, it's not, that's his last name. It's not going out to dinner with Dominic. Basically, what it is a property owner. We needed to acquire some right of way to do a sidewalk repair for ADA compliance.
so we paid $1,400 to that property owner?
Correct.
For easement to do sidewalk
Correct.
renovation? Okay.
So basically what happens is in certain locations where we have a conformance issue where we cannot put in a compliant ADA ramp, We have certain areas where we can actually have exemptions to the policy. We first, though, before we can actually qualify for the exemption, we have to work with the property owner to see if there actually is a way to solve the problem for the future. A $1,400 expenditure to get right of way to do that is not a consideration that would be worthy of an exemption. There are exemptions for cost, but $1,400 does not rise to the level of something to get an exemption for. So oftentimes we may pay up to $1,400 or up to $5,000 to get that land so we can put a compliant ADA ramp into position. If we had an exorbitant situation where we had to remove like a storm drain inlet that was tens of thousands of dollars, that would be something that we could request an exemption for and avoid that construction cost.
Okay, but I'm confused here. It's under pavement, so I guess all ADA costs are under pavement, correct?
So we actually
Not sidewalks.
So yeah, so basically it's a different expenditure category for us with the ADA component. And if there's something, I know that I have Sarah on the line here, and if there's any further clarification she can provide, that'd be great.
Because the reason I'm questioning is generally ADA ramps are going in the area corners where the sidewalks are. The sidewalks, according to the city, are the responsibility of the property owner, but the city can go ahead and put something in without having to do anything with the property owner. So I guess I'm having a hard time figuring out why we had to pay for an easement of what would be going into a sidewalk area.
So basically, in that aspect of it, the repair of a sidewalk is a property owner's responsibility if the sidewalk is damaged by a property owner's tree or property owner's landscaping. If the city has defect, if the city tree causes that defect, that's what the Measure P sidewalks will cover for the city's responsibility. Or something where we have a design defect where the paving requires an ADA upgrade, that's an appropriate expense for ADA usage. What happens is we right, wrong, and different is we utilize multiple funding sources for that work. So the ADA portion of that ramp will take care of the ramp. The sidewalk portion of it may take care of the approaches to that. And then the street project where it may be constructed under will take care of the paving that comes around it. So what you'll see in many of our projects is multiple funding sources with each of those funding codes for delivery. So to your basic question, it is the city's responsibility to pay and put in compliant ADA ramps, and that's what this expenditure was based upon.
Yeah, but that's not what my question is.
Okay.
I know that. My question is, this is the first time ever we've seen city having to buy right away to put in an ADA ramp. My understanding has been all those, the sidewalks and all the rest are on existing city right away. So why are we having to pay for an easement in this location? I mean, what's unique about this scenario, I guess, is the question. This isn't the first ADA ramp we put in with Measure P funds or NIP funds for that.
I would be surprised if this is the first one that we've actually paid for. This, I believe we've had several before that we've actually done, where we paid for access to this. I can think of 3 off the top of my head as we go on next to the Naval Postgraduate School where we installed it and paid for right of way as well. I think that this may be something that's caused, pardon me, might be something that's called attention to it from this particular thing, but this is not the first easement that we've purchased for installation of ADA ramps.
And what is the location of that?
Sarah, can you help me out on that, please?
Yeah, it was 243 and 245 Montecito Avenue.
And I mean, so then theoretically, we'd have to buy easement any place where there doesn't exist an existing ADA ramp.
No, that's not correct. Anywhere where there's not room within the existing right of way for the ADA ramp installation. It's not the common situation that happens at every corner within the city of Monterey. For those of you who are in the public who might be watching this, most of the easements that we have in the city are 60 feet wide. Some are 50, some are 40, depends on what street we're on and when that street was actually came into the city possession. Most streets that we have, the most paved areas are about 40 feet wide, 38 feet of asphalt and a couple of feet of curb and gutter on either side. The city's right of way in most cases spans to include the sidewalks. Where that right of way, from whatever reason, cannot fit that ADA compliant ramp, we need to purchase a little snippet of someone's property to make that corner. Typically what it is, it's a very small corner of property that we have to purchase.
And
And
that-
what happens if they don't want to have you have an easement?
So there's two processes that we can do. One is we can redesign the process, or we can actually go through an eminent domain process.
Okay,
When the domain process comes forward, that would trigger the aspect of being something that's a substantial cost. And then a substantial cost to get that ADA compliant aspect in there would be something that we would have an ADA exception for. So if we go through a process where someone does not want to do this voluntarily, or for our true value offer of $1,500 in this case, they can actually decline it, deny it. We can go through the process of identifying how much that cost would be for a condemnation process. Typically, that process is tens of thousands of dollars. We quantify that, we document that, we do an ADA exception request for that process because of the exorbitant cost, and then we move on with life, and we build the ramp as compliant as possible with the space we have.
so I guess as a follow-up to that, I know if city puts in a sidewalk, it is now property owner's responsibility to maintain it. If they cede the easement, so now we've built the ADA ramp, whose responsibility is it to maintain it? The cities or the property owner?
It becomes part of the sidewalk system, so it has the same rules as the sidewalk.
So, and was this owner made aware that he's now going to be liable for maintaining whatever you're putting into that easement that he just sold for $1,500?
We utilize the standard form that's been developed by the city's attorney's office for this transaction, so it's documented there.
Okay, because no one in the city had a clue about the requirements for their own sidewalks in front of their house. I hope indeed, because it'd be a rude surprise at some point.
Well, and we've never had to do as compliant as possible, because as compliant as possible when it comes to ADA makes me nervous
So
as to what liability exposure the city would have.
we actually, Carol, just to correct you, we have done as compliant as possible. And basically, not for the acquisition of property, that didn't trigger it into that zone, but just the topography that we have in Monterey has triggered that on several occasions. So when we're in the new Monterey area where we have hillsides and so forth, it's simply not possible to shape the earth into a place where we can get an ADA compliant ramp. So for those areas that we cannot get something that's compliant, think of the Plaza Hotel on Cannery Row, and right there's an intersection where the rec trail comes across. It's just wonky. So we do as best we can. We document that it's as best we can. And if there's a situation over there that arises from that, we have the documentation where the city attorney's office and public works office believes we've met it, that requirement as best as possible. So we do have that, and we do use it on occasion. It's not, we use it as sparingly as possible, but we have used it before.
And we have not been exposed, well, so far.
Well, you never know what's going to happen,
Yeah.
but you never know what's going to happen. But we as exposed as we are, we feel that we are covered into the rules and requirements that have been laid down by the City of Monterey's ADA Access Board. They've actually provided the framework for the ADA exceptions. So we've had that approved through that board. And then, like I said, that
Okay.
template has been worked through the process with City Attorney's Office. So we think that we're as solid footing as possible.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Which detention basins were we dredging?
So the detention basin, that's Lagunita Mirada and Washerwoman's.
Now, Lagunita Mirada was an NIP project to dredge it. Was this in addition to that?
I believe we augmented the funds for that to make sure that we had we augmented the NCIP project funding with the.
Okay. But, and any idea when we might finish that? I know we'll have to go through the process all over again, but I also know they didn't get a chance to do it all because of some surprises.
Yeah, the permitting process is the biggest challenge on this aspect of it, and hopefully that we can get in there. We have a contractor on retainer, if you will. Basically, he's waiting for us to get the go ahead we're waiting for the clearance from Fish and Wildlife to allow us to go in there. Honestly, that given the time of year, it's looking very challenging, but if they gave us a go-ahead for next week, we could actually get down there and hopefully get more of that work out there. As you recall, as you're well aware, we did have a problem out there last year where we got the piece of equipment stuck down there, which didn't help us meet our deadlines, and there is some work yet to do out there.
Any other questions? Do we have any public comment?
No public comments.
Okay, thank you. Could we have a motion, please, to accept the unaudited report for July, period of July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Get a roll call vote, please, Lisa.
Patrick Aldinger,
Yes.
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 Nick Sina,
Yes.
Rick Hoyer,
Yes.
Great, thank you. Motion passes unanimously with those present. Okay, next, may we please move on to the review of the unaudited expenditures from July 1, 2021 through August 31, 2021 for conformance to Measure P and S language.
Did we get detail for that one?
You did send that.
yes, that was included in the same link. It's in under public comments.
Okay.
So how far behind do the numbers lag? Just seeing that we don't have any recorded revenue. Is that done quarterly? I can't remember.
That's gonna be my question too. It's like, you got nothing?
The revenue lags because of the timing delay for which the city receives the payments from the state. So we usually don't receive the first payment for the new fiscal year until the end of actually right about now. So we should be seeing that soon.
Thank you.
We got $9,500.
And again, I can't find the detail for the expenditures during that time frame. It's not in the link that had the two previous ones.
In the email that Lisa sent, that was a link to the Google Drive.
Yep, there were
There
two,
were
which
two.
were the previous two. That
The
we
second
reviewed.
one, there was one last modified at 8/24. The one that was modified at 8/25, the second one has the detail. File
It's
name
strange.
is Measure P Claim Detail FY22 P1-2 0701 21-08 31 21 PDF.
And Rick,
Detailed video.
I do have that. So I'm not sure what's happening. It's on my link.
I said, I go to the link that I get and I've got the fiscal 21, fiscal 22. Okay, let me open that again. Had those open earlier. Okay, I've got it.
Question, it doesn't look, Steve, like there hasn't been a lot of activity in the first quarter.
That's correct. We're working through our processes, and with different aspects of it, we are still working forward on Measure P and Measure S projects. we are actually carrying some other projects forward as well. Part of our staffing is working through different aspects of it. We do have several projects that are about to go under construction. There's not a lot of expenditure that happens as those projects are being pushed through. So there is a bit of a lag right now for this first quarter, but it's it's kind of a reaction a little bit to is we did tap the brakes a little bit because we were trying to figure out where our revenues were and so forth. So it's kind of an end result of that. But we do have projects that are coming through the line and being approved by city council. And then those expenditures should happen for the next quarter.
Because I don't think I've ever seen it this low in the first quarter.
Yeah, it is pretty low.
Yeah. Okay.
It is pretty low.
So since you worked so hard during COVID, now you're kind of like, get your feet up on the desk. Is that it? No.
We got to do what we got to do.
Get your feet up on the sidewalk. Is it?
Yeah, no, exactly. Luckily there's some stuff at the waterfront that's happening. So, none of the projects that we're pushing forward. So there is.
Is that luckily or unluckily?
Well, it's luckily for us because I keep my people moving to get other projects going forward. So unluckily for Measure PNS,
Yeah.
projects
All right.
moving forward, but we're able to keep the city moving.
I don't have any questions.
No questions for me, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Do we have any public comment?
No public comments.
Okay, excellent. Then may I please have a motion to approve the unaudited expenditures from July 1, 2021 through August 31, 2021 for conformance to Measure
Actually, I do have one question quick.
PNS. Yeah,
Portola Plaza has been added to pavement. Who owns Portola Plaza?
the city.
Okay,
It's 6 feet at maximum outside of the front of the hotel is owned by the city.
okay.
That I know.
Thank you.
1978.
Plus or minus.
Plus or minus, yeah, right.
I mean, it's kind of like the road down the middle of Fisherman's Wharf is city also, so.
Right, right.
Yeah, makes sense to have it be part of the overall pavement plan. It's part of the city.
That's why when the renovation of the conference center, when the driveway was being renovated, the portion of that was the city's responsibility because it's owned by the city.
Yeah.
But it's still, majority of which still being paid for by the CCFD. I know that too.
Well, I'll make a motion that finding it all consistent with Measure PNS.
We have a second?
Second,
Got it.
second,
Any discussion? May I have a roll call vote then, please?
Yeah. Rick Aldinger,
yes.
Justin Chang,
Yes.
Carol Travagian,
Yes.
Nick Sina,
Yes.
Rick Hoyer,
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously with those present. Okay, next, unaudited periodic report for a period of July 1, 2021 through August 31, 2021.
I'll start with for the current period from July 1, 2020 through August 31, 2020, we have total revenues of 9,514, which is all comprised of interest. And we have total expenditures of 223,754. And our change in fund balance was just 214,000. And so our total from inception to now fund balance, we had revenues of 58.5 million, expenditures of 53 million. So our total fund balance as of August 31st, 5.5 million.
Is there a typo in the report? In the third paragraph for the current year?
9,500.
No, before that. For the current year, FY 21-22, period of July 1, 2020.
That's
Should that be
right.
2021?
It should be 2021. Thank you. We'll get that correction done.
Good catch.
Got it. Any other questions? So I guess when we find out, we'll catch up with what we're expecting in terms of sales tax. We know what we have here, and then that will allow you then to move forward. Do you have projects in the pipeline that would fit into this? And you just have to figure out what the money is. Can you give us?
Certainly, yeah. So basically what we do is we work with finance to figure out where our ballpark number is going towards that number. So whether it's Jordan or Rafaela now who will tell us is we have roughly $5 million to expend. And those are the kinds of projects we put forward to expend those, not getting too close to that edge. So as I said, we do have projects that have been moved forward. We have a bid that was received. It's going to go to council fairly soon. It's in the 2 million range. I feel comfortable to recommend that to go to council because we have 5 and 2, so that makes some sense there. We have some smaller projects, the $500,000 to $200,000 range for more sidewalk projects to get those working through. Those will also proceed as well, and then we'll kind of keep the pipeline moving to see how we're coming in with those numbers that come through from finance, and they'll feed us the information, which will then package those projects for delivery to make sure we're not overexpending.
Okay. But you do have plenty of, I mean, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You've got plenty of pieces to put in as soon as you know what kind of money you have, correct?
Correct. We do have plenty of pieces to go forward. And actually, one of the things that we're trying to do, the cities, just as an aside, the city's in the process of updating its web page and it's done a fairly good job of doing that process. What we're going to do is provide additional linkage to identify where our projects coming forward are, and what we've accomplished, of course, to celebrate Measure P&S. And then, of course, what's coming down the line. We had that at one point in time. It's kind of, I'm going to say, been a little bit dated. We're going to update that with some new information and try to give people that heads up of what's going on. We do have plenty of, to answer your question though, we do have projects coming forward in queue.
Do you have projects that would, going forward to the end of the current S, do you have projects going in the pipeline or sketched out-ish that would get to completion?
Sketched out-ish is a great
Ish.
word.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, sketched out-ish is a great word. I think what we're looking at right now is some of the major corridors that we really haven't gotten to yet. Lighthouse, for example, is a major expenditure and a major corridor that we're really trying to dial in for, not this summer, but into the next winter season. It's generally a little bit better to us do construction and Lighthouse when it's not the peak tourist season.
Right.
So we're looking at that. That's going to be a fairly expensive endeavor, as you can imagine. But when we go through that, we're planning that right now, and then we'll kind of ferret other things around that as we go. We do believe that based upon what we have on the queue from our software that helps us plan this data and the revenue projections, should they return back to hopefully our $8 million number, hopefully better than that. But if they return to our $8 million number, we should be able to get the job done as we had promised the public. So,
okay.
But I don't have a full lined out example of how it's going to be getting there just through the process. We'll work it.
Okay. When we get those numbers on the sales tax in the first quarter, I'll be interested to see again, because of the food and beverage and the rentals and that sales tax revenue from groups is substantial. And I'd be interested to see where the majority of the business has been leisure business. Have they been spending money in the restaurants? Have they been buying retail? Is there anything that has in any way, shape, or form made up any part of what the collection is? I don't think so, but then I'm biased. I'm very biased toward groups, so I'm not a good person to ask about that. Okay, do we have any questions, any comments? Any public comment?
No public comment.
Then could we please have a motion to accept the unaudited periodic report for the period July 1, 2021 through August 31, 2021?
So moved.
I have a second?
I'll second with the change in the date.
With a change in the date, yes. Any discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please, Lisa?
Yes. Rick Aldinger,
Yes.
Justin Chang,
Yes.
Carol Tribajian,
Yes.
Nick Sina,
Yes.
Rick Hoyer,
Yes. I'm not used to being at the end of the alphabet. My last name begins with an H.
Put an X on the front of it, XH. Great. Then we'll move on to discuss the draft council report for the our annual report. When, I guess we need a time frame of what's good for council. Rick, was it December we did it last year? I can't remember.
It was November.
Okay.
And we don't, I mean, we should easily be able to get, since we've done it a couple of times, get our report together. Shall we see what, in terms of the council, is good for them? I mean, because for our purposes, we could get a report together fairly quickly.
And so, Carol, I'm thinking that, for the past couple of years, at least, that's something city has provided to us, a draft report that we review and approve and then schedule presentation. Is that right?
Correct, yes. Are we, and I guess that's the question too from city staff, how quickly could we get something? Again, it's not that it's copy and copy and paste and replace dates, but it is fairly uncomplicated, I think.
I think the biggest information we're looking from the committee would be if that process has been acceptable for the committee and there's no material change from that, we can proceed with that same course of action. If there's any additional information that maybe has come up that you'd be looking for in that draft, we'd be open to hearing that. So when it's provided, it could reflect the committee's wishes.
I think if we could get a draft from you, then we can review it and see what else we need to put into it to get ready.
Wonderful.
And then if we could then see when, because you know better what the city council agendas are coming up, that we don't want to, I mean, usually what we do is fairly quick and won't impact on a meeting, but if they've got a really loaded meeting, I don't know that we need to be there doing that.
We can also work with the city clerk's office on the upcoming council so that it fits an appropriate time for both groups.
Okay, all right.
I will let you know that from discussion from the exec committee, basically, we've been informed that the first meeting of January has been canceled.
Okay,
We are under the understanding that all the other regularly scheduled council meetings will occur as scheduled. But the only one that is off the table is the first meeting in January.
Okay.
So we look to have 2 in November and 2 in December.
so maybe if we can get it done in November, I mean, it would be, again, we're being a little more proactive if we could. Okay.
So Carol,
Yes, sir.
so I'm thinking if we could maybe get that scheduled, the second meeting in November would be great. But my question is, do we need an additional special meeting of this committee to approve that, or I can't remember how we've done that in the past?
That is what we did in the past. We had a draft that went out, and then we had a very essentially quick meeting to make sure that everybody was comfortable with the report, and they essentially blessed it, maybe some minor tweaks about, of catching a word here or there, but essentially approving the report, and then it would be scheduled for the city council. So we have done it in the past.
So in terms of a time frame, what can we anticipate as a time frame from staff and getting a draft report?
I believe that we can get it done in a week. Jordan, is there anything that's out of the ordinary that
No.
would take longer than that?
Yes, I think we can get the report drafted fairly quickly, and then it would just be a matter of I'm just thinking about the noticing to set the special
I was
meeting
just
for
gonna
this
say, yeah,
committee as
That's
well
what
as.
that's
Yeah.
specifically what
Yeah.
I'm thinking of, that if we're going to, we know that you will have a report prepared, in
I-
12 days, 14 days, then we give the committee, 3 days, 24 hours, no, the 3 days to review, and then notice.
Yeah, I think we would have sufficient time to draft, submit to the committee and notice both the special meeting as well as meet the noticing for the regular city council meeting.
The
as
regular
well.
city council, second city council meeting in
Correct.
November. Okay, can we
Mhm.
plan for that?
I think we can more than definitely do that. And then if the only caveat would be just ensuring that that second council meeting for the city council agenda is appropriate, that
Yes,
it's not
yes,
a
yes.
fully
Yes, right.
meeting.
Yeah.
So we'll proceed with that plan and.
Again, we don't usually take up a lot of their time, but they do have questions sometimes. And if they've got a lot of other stuff to do, they'll be just like, yeah.
Correct.
Which they don't.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, does that sound all right with everybody else?
Sounds good.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Then the last thing will be looking at meetings in 2022. And I took it upon myself to take a look at the calendar. And if we do it in a quarterly basis, as we did this year, we would be looking at 1/10/22, 4/11/22, 7/11, we should gamble that day, 7/11/22, and then 10/10, Independence Day in Taiwan. Does that off the top of everybody's head sound like it'll work?
Sounds good to me.
Perfect. That's exactly what I was hoping for.
Your wishes came true, right? Right, then, given that, do we have any other comment and any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, great. Then I would move to adjourn our meeting. Thank you very much, everyone, and look for the report coming from staff so that we can then get together and get our a report for the council. And again, for Justin, if we can, when we can, we try and be present at the council meeting when we present, so that if they have questions for us, we can make our presentation, they can ask their questions, and again, we look like we're engaged. Yes, sir.
So just one thing, just as the whole COVID situation continues to evolve, as we go through this process, like you said, in the past, we've all been at the meeting, we've done the aspect of it. It's a little different. Right now, the city council is meeting or has to go through, and perhaps Lisa can help me if I get totally wrong on this, but it's just a new process. Every 30 days, we have to renew how the city council will actually format and operate its meetings. So what it is right now is we're in a hybrid format, which is what we're doing here, and council is doing the same exact process. The first meeting of every month is what is kind of slated out for, is that they'll do a consent item to identify how the next 30 days will
Okay.
transpire. So we can go through that process and see if it's a hybrid meeting for the November, or if what kind of.
And I think I know last year, because we were all in virtual, that we did attend and we were, allowed in as attendees at the meeting virtually. And that's fine, as long as
Correct.
we are all on the same page and we can all still do that, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
they'll have the panelists to put you in as a
Yeah,
panelist,
yeah,
just like they
right,
did for this
exactly.
meeting today.
Okay, but again, it just, we're there, we're reporting, and we're showing that we are paying attention.
Correct.
So, all right, perfect. Thank you. Anything else? Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.